Y les aseguro que esta mesa, por diseño y por su nivel, les va a cambiar la vida a mejor. Les va a aportar felicidad al hogar.
Es una mierda.
Welcome back to another episode of Hidden Gems here on Horrorfilm TV. The film we're going to be talking about today is an international film and a very interesting one. It came out in 2022. It is called The Coffee Table. It is directed by Caye Casas and it stars David Pareja as Jesus, Estefania de los Santos as Maria, and Gala Flores as Ruth. So we have this young couple, Jesus and Maria, who they just became parents. Now, their marriage is in a very serious strain, and well, Jesus decides he wants to buy this coffee table against Maria's best wishes. So that is the premise of this film. But like I said before, and I'm going to repeat it, is I was very hesitant on doing this film because I've heard not too many things about it, but the things I hear was that it is a shocking film. For example, I went on IMDb, and one of the reviewers said, well, this film left a mark just like Martyrs did the original to the reviewer. So after reading that, I was like, you know what? Let me watch this film. It's supposed to be a dark comedy. So the beginning portion of this film is very comedic in a way. So you have Maria and Jesus that after the birth of their child, they go to this furniture store. And for some reason, Jesus just wants this one specific coffee table. Now, this is where the dark comedy element enters, where you have this salesman trying to do his best sales pitch to make sure that they buy this item. Now, every time he makes a sales pitch, he is basically verbally assaulted by Maria. She calls him dummy, she calls him stupid, she calls him liar. So the back and forth banter between Maria and the salesman is very comedic. But eventually what happens is Jesus, who basically confronts Maria saying that he never makes any decisions. All the decisions that's made in the house is her. Let him for once have this table. So he buys the table out of pride just to show that he can do something without Maria's approval and, well, brings it home. So now during the process of putting the table together, he is ridiculed and berated by Maria, who just simply hates this table. Now, during the sales pitch from the salesman, he stated that the glass on this table is unbreakable. Nothing can break this glass. So, while he's putting the table together, Maria decides, well, you know what? I have to go out to get groceries because your brother and his 18-year-old girlfriend are coming over and we have to cook dinner for them. I am leaving you with the baby. So, after a shocking accident involving the baby, this is where this film takes a dark and twisted turn. Because what happens, you do not see it, it's off camera. But as a father, it is very shocking what transpires afterwards. So Jesus, in shock and not knowing what to do, takes the baby and puts him in the crib. Now, he's doing everything possible, cleaning the blood, cleaning everything that happened as part of this accident, even to the point where he has a glass shard in his arm that he pulls out. And then, well, once Maria comes home, he kind of basically fibs and says, oh, this is my blood, the baby's sleeping. You know, let the baby sleep for a couple hours. So, like I said, the film continues to take this dark, twisted, just psychological traumatic experience. I yelled at the TV plenty of times in this film because here you have a character, Jesus, who at the beginning of the film you kind of feel sympathy for because Maria is just always just bashing him, treating him like shit. So he becomes a sympathetic character at the beginning. But as the film continues, you just want to literally punch him in the face. Every decision he makes just is so dreadful and unimaginable that you're curious of exactly what's going to happen at the conclusion of this film. Now, to make matters even worse, that his brother's coming over with his wife. They show up, and this is where it even becomes more just dark and twisted because you know what's happening and you know what's happened, but only you and David's character, Jesus, knows what's happening. I mean, it is so demented what happens in this film. But this is what horror does. If you feel uncomfortable, you're in shock, then the movie did its job well. To make matters even worse, Ruth, played by Gala Flores, is a 13-year-old who has a severe crush on Jesus, to the point where she even wants to confront the wife and say, "Hey, he belongs with me, not you." And she shows up later in the film, and this adds another twist into just the crazy ending and shocking conclusion of this film. Now, like I said, this film is not for everybody. So if you watch it, just understand that it's going to bring a lot of emotions, especially if you're a parent. And you have this couple, Maria and Jesus, who there's in such a marital strain in the fact that this child is not part of their lives. And even one point where Jesus said, I didn't even have a decision in basically bringing a child into this world. So there's a lot of mixed emotions as you watch this film. And the fact that the film's called A Coffee Table, it kind of throws you off. And then you see the comedy as far as, the description of this film. But know that the comedy is very limited and is basically the first, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes of the film. Then afterwards, you're just sitting there watching a film saying, what the fuck? What is wrong with you? And what the fuck is going to happen? Now, like I said, I'm not going to explain exactly what happened to the child because I want you to watch this film if you decide to watch this film. Because it is very disturbing. And this is what basically drives and the movie forward is what exactly is going to be the conclusion and the resolution of what happened. Now, there's 4 people, eventually 5 people are in this apartment, and only one knows the truth. Eventually, another finds out, and it just continues driving the dread in this film. I'm going to keep saying dread because it was dreadful what happened in this film, especially as a parent. So definitely watch this film if you're looking for something shocking. It is a very well done film as far as how it carries the emotion and how it makes the viewer angry, and the viewer carries the emotion as you're watching this film. Because like I said, I yelled at the TV a couple of times. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But that is what made this movie interesting. And for me, I definitely, would I watch it again? Probably, just to see if I missed something. Because, there's things that happen in this film. And, well, being that you're shocked most of the time, I wanted to make sure that there was nothing I lost midway in the film. But definitely watch it, The Coffee Table. Currently streaming on Tubi and AMC Plus. This film is not for everybody. It is a very different type of film. And for me, it felt very original, especially with the shock value of the film. There's a lot about this film that I like: the cinematography, the storytelling, the acting. This film was very well done. But the fact is, the incident that happened is just so shocking that you want to finish the film and see what actually happens. But till next time, see you Thursday. Peace.